This channel is mostly talks about how reality is perceived based on the experience of having a shift that was not known to be possible. There's a state of being that would vindicate your past by virtue of its being what led you to the present. An energetic awakening is frightening. You don't know it's going to happen because you don't know such a thing exists. One day you feel a tingle in your forehead, and then it's like someone unzipped your skull and took off the top half. There's a diadem of energy that burns proportionally to your need for things to be different than they are. Eventually, the energy grows and spreads to the entire head, but it can't get below the neck because there are blockages, and it feels like there's an overloading. This is called a top-down awakening. The blockages have to be unwound before the energy can descend and stabilize in the spiritual heart, and from there radiate in stillness. You can look at things on the internet that corroborate this experience and see what else is known, but ultimately there's an ordeal to navigate in each moment. We are energetic beings, and what we can't let go of has a carry cost. If that cost is high enough, we may seek a remedy. It's in feeling and letting go. This lays the foundation. It diminishes the energy that underlies memory. If the unwanted thought takes up enough space, its surrender may reveal the connection between peace and presence, and the gap between what perceives and what's perceived. If the scope of what appears in the awareness one is revealed to encompass what has been taken previously to be a self, there can be a sense of separation from the self-concept that makes it hard to resent others, seeing as how their expression is also dependently originated, like any other event. If you are no longer unconsciously identifying with the form and its provenance, the fingerprint of identity doesn't get to play gatekeeper for your perception of others. When what's seen is known to be the self that witnesses the body and mind, it sees itself in all that sees. When combined with the realization that all phenomena is dependently originated, it becomes possible to realize its arbitrary nature. Attacks to it don't sting so much, and attackers are seen as impersonal by virtue of their unconsciousness. When we don't know ourselves, we can't know who we attack. People are as random as any event, and can be regarded as such when you're deciding whether or not to take offense at their actions. At the same time, the regarding of oneself in that same way can reveal that what is behind the eye of every other is what one is. There are no others, as Ramana Maharshi said. This channel is the same story over and over again, told a different way each time, attempting to point out unconscious beliefs' consequences to your state of being. The predominant state is not taken to be a state because it's the only state heretofore experienced that's remembered. But it's noticed when it's no longer experienced. And then what appears is thought to be another state. When the only paradigm of interpreting thoughts is relative to a physical and conceptual self, there exists some set of notions that will trouble you because you identify as one to gain and lose. When physical and mental objects have no person to relate to, their fate is as that of an unowned thing. You notice the absence of the potency of the narrative. And you can't see it going back the other way. So you're no longer believing that there's you're just not identified with the impermanent, an impermanent thing, and then there's just a lack of fear in that. And that often comes through suffering. You can be pregnant with the kind of suffering that is either going to put you on the moon or in the ground. To attempt to deal with that type of suffering by rearranging thoughts the thing just burns through any other thoughts, whatever it is that is just persistent. It doesn't yield to countervailing thoughts, and that actually just gives it more energy. So if you notice that unwanted thoughts are an immediate cause of unhappiness, that is kind of a place where you can research dealing with unwanted thoughts in different ways. I think a fair number of people would say that some method of coping with their thoughts has helped them. There are two ways that thoughts can be regarded. They can be looked at relationally, meaning that they correspond to a conceptual self. When thoughts relate to a conceptual self, they can trigger emotions. The other way of looking at thoughts is that they are dependently originated, subtle phenomena. The evidence of our belief in them is seen in our reactions to them. The generation gap is due to differences in conditioning. There are aspects to our conditioning that are mundane and basically universal, the practical skills of living. There may be great variation in the particulars of the skills between people around the world, but when looked at from afar, they can be understood for what they are. They are mundane and uncontroversial tasks unless they violate someone's taboo, which does illustrate the effect of arbitrary rules. They bring separation to normally uncontroversial aspects of life. The thoughts that comprise the thoughts of this benign type are like emotional ballast. They get attention, but they don't generate emotional reactions. So they bring a certain stability. They bring peace into the bandwidth of attention because they don't have to be in conflict with things, and they don't present a wall of opinions for the world to attack. It's one reason why work can be a spiritual practice. If we let the task occupy our mind rather than some grudge, worry, or desire, there's a peace that's seemingly uncaused, but is actually what appears automatically if there's no cause acting against it. The full measure of this peace eclipses the product of worldly pursuits.